Hi and welcome to Outwell and to the Phoenix 7 ATC from our Air TC collection. You can see here that this is a large tunnel design tent which is aimed to sleep up to 7 people across 3 bedrooms in the back. So this is where the bedrooms are. We then have a large sealed living space and we have a good sized front wet room as well. So it is a full 3-zone tent. So we'll show you all the details on the inside shortly, but first of all I want to talk you through the features on the outside. So for me, I think one of the most important things to point out here is the frame that we're using. So we actually have a bit of a hybrid on this particular tent, whereby the front half of the tent, so this outside sort of wet room area, is actually using steel poles here. So that's going to create a good, solid and rigid structure. But then from here to the back, we're then using our power air tube system, which is where we have 3 inflatable tubes running across the tent. And what you will find is there's then another tube that sits between the back two. So again, great rigidity back here as well. So with the tent being inflatable at the back here, we do supply it with a pump, which is just like this one here. So it is a 2-way double action hand pump. So the 2-way and double action part just means that every time you pull the lever up and push it down, you are inflating the tubes. So what that means is quick and easy inflation. The pump also has a pressure gauge on the top of it here, so you can keep an eye on the pressure when you're inflating the tent. And we would recommend inflating it to 7 psi, which is 0.5 bar. So now I'd just like to show you the valves, which are for the inflation and deflation points. So next, I'd like to talk you through the material that we're using for the fly sheet on this tent. So this is our Outex AirTech material, and this is where the TC comes in the collection name. So TC is for technical cotton, otherwise known as polycotton. This particular material is 65% cotton and 35% polyester. And that gives this material quite a few advantages. So the first main advantage would be the fact that this is a very long-lasting material. You would expect this to last a long time because it doesn't degrade particularly quickly under UV degradation or sunlight. Next is the fact that it's actually a very breathable material, so it's going to be a great tent to use in warmer climates because you'll actually be kept a little bit cooler. But not only that, it will actually react to the temperature that it's in, so if it's a little bit cooler outside, it'll actually keep you more comfortable inside as well. Finally, this tent is also naturally waterproof. Now we do put a coating on the outside to encourage light drizzle to sort of bead off of the material. But with it being naturally waterproof, you'll find that this will actually seal itself. So for the tent to seal itself, it's a very simple process. All that needs to happen is it needs to get wet and dry just a few times. Now, of course, that can happen during the first few times using it, or if you want, you can also do that yourself, of course, just by wetting the tent and letting it dry out a few times. Once that's done that, it will seal itself and will become waterproof. So moving on from there, I next want to highlight the ventilation that we have also on the fly sheet here. We have these large panels. So just under here we have a strip of mesh material on the inside. So even though this material is breathable, we can still have this open to allow cool, fresh air into the tent. You can easily get rid of these, or just have Velcro tabs on here, so we can just take these away and get rid of the ventilation if it does get a little bit too chilly. We also then have really large windows all the way around the tent here, so big enough to allow enough light into the tent to make it feel nice and spacious, but they are tinted windows as well. So they serve 2 key functions, one of which is to reflect some sun rays from the inside of the tent, so more the glare than anything else. And secondly, of course, is to give you much better privacy within there as well. On these front 2 steel poles, we're also using our wind stabilizer system. So the steel itself is of course very sturdy and stable, but with the addition of our wind stabilizers, it's even better. And we'll just show you how this works. When we're setting the tent up, all we have to do is simply wrap around the Velcro tabs like so, and put into place like this. You'll find that there's one at the top and at the bottom of these steel poles at the front of the tent here, and this is then where we attach the guy lines. So when we then take the guy lines out and peg them into position, that's going to pull the fly sheet against the front frame here and make this area nice and stable. Of course, with it being inflatable and with that bracer tube on the inside, the back is also very stable as well. So the tent is waterproof, of course, and it's also nice and stable, so you can use this in pretty harsh conditions. The guy lines themselves are our floating guy lines, so you can see here that there are 2 parts to them, and it's the same all the way around the tent. So the top half of the guy line is black, which ties in with the colour of the trim on the tent, and the bottom half here you can see is our classic luminous guy line. So these should be a little bit easier to spot when it's a bit darker outside to stop you tripping over them. So the floating guy line comes from the fact that luminous part from a distance actually looks like it is floating. Each guy line also has its own retainer, so when it comes to packing the tent down, you can simply wrap these up and pop them into these loops that are already attached here. So you just wrap them up, pop them in there, so that the next time you come to use the tent, these are going to be easily accessible. The front area of the tent here, the wet room if you like, has these mud valances that run all the way along the bottom here. So that's just going to encourage any rainwater to run down and away from the inside. So here at the front of the tent, you can see this wet area or wet room or panorama room, depending what you want to call it here, but it's a great space overall. What I want to talk you through first of all is the door that we have at the very front of the tent. You can see that we have it rolled away at the moment, but this is actually quite a versatile door because it has a 4-way zipper on it. So what that means is you can roll it to this side, or you can roll it to the other side as well. Or when it's fully closed, you can also then take the zippers from the top down to almost create a sort of stable door, if you like, just to allow for good ventilation. The door itself has large windows on there as well, and they are of course tinted to match the rest of the windows around the tent as well. This area also has a detachable bathtub style ground sheet, so in terms of material, it's good quality, durable double coated polyethylene with a hydrostatic head of 10,000 millimeters. As I say, it is a bathtub style ground sheet, so you can see that it does come up around the edges here, just reducing the draft in this area. But it is a toggle in ground sheet, so you don't have to use this if you don't want to. The front here you can see is also flat. Now I just want to highlight that what you can do with this door is also have it half zipped across. So you can see here that there is actually a point where you can separate this. If you wanted to, you can actually bring this up and zip it to the door to create a sort of sealed area at the front there. If not, then of course what you have is a full flat entrance here, so nice and easy access within there. And you also have these zippers along here which will attach onto the door itself. So separating your front wet room from the sealed area of the tent, we have this large dividing wall here. So you can see we've got it rolled halfway or zipped halfway across at the moment. This can be fully opened up if you want, just simply by taking the zip at the top and the bottom here. So it can be opened up just to create one big huge space, or of course it can go the other way as well and fully close over. You'll see here that we have really large mesh ventilation panels on here as well, and what you will find is there are curtains just at the bottom of this which we have rolled away at the moment, but these can just be zipped into place just to keep this area a little bit more cozy and warm. So then stepping through into the main living area of the tent, what you will find is there is a huge amount of space in here. It's a really, really good height tent. I'm quite tall at around 1.95 m, and I have plenty of space in here. You can see that we have a good sized table and some chairs. We have some furniture over this side as well, and there are still plenty of space within this area. So as I said there, this area itself is actually fully sealed. So from that dividing door to the back of the tent and of course side to side, we do have a full sealed ground sheet in here. It's the same material as what we're using in the front. So again, a polyethylene durable material with a hydrostatic head of 10,000 mil. The difference here is, of course, as I say, that this is fully sealed, so it does come up around the edges, as you've just seen. So that will stop drafts completely. It'll also stop things like dirt, dust and sand coming into the tent, and more importantly, hopefully keep out those creepy crawlies too. So within this area, we then also have 2 side entrances as well. Now these doors actually have full mesh zippable doors, which we have zipped down on this side just to show you. So the outside door is rolled away at the moment, and then you can bring this door down. So when you've got that front door open and these mesh panels open on the dividing wall and these doors in here, there's certainly a huge amount of sort of through flow ventilation within the tent. We have a lantern hanging point at the top in the middle of the tent just here, and you can see that we've actually attached one of our Corvus lights to it. Running away from that in both directions, we have cable tidies, which you can see we're utilising here, which run down to where we have a cable entry point. Now, as I say, there is one of these on either side, but you can see here, that allows us to bring these cables into the tent without actually having the door open, so you can still have this door zipped closed, but have your power or cables running into the tent here. At the back of the tent is where the bedrooms are situated. So, as I said before, this tent can sleep up to 7 people across 3 bedrooms. Now, the way that we hang these bedrooms in is using our wave-shaped hanging point system. So you can see that we have this waved mesh across the top, which of course gives it a really nice style, but it is also functional as well because it takes any of the stress off of that top seam of the bedroom. We also have the stripes on the outside here to give you that home away from home feel. We have some handy storage pockets down the middle of the bedrooms as well on the outside here. Something else to highlight is that all the bedroom doors have mesh ventilation panels towards the top of them here, and just behind here there is a curtain rolled away, so if you do want privacy or if you want to be a wee bit more cosy, then you can easily zip them into place. Inside the bedrooms there are good features to highlight as well. We have some storage pockets along the sides of the two outer bedrooms. We have a large ventilation panel across the back of the bedroom which corresponds to outside ventilation on the fly sheet as well. So next, just to highlight that we can also separate the bedrooms using these zipped pieces of material. So you can easily open this up to create one big bedroom on this side, or of course you could do the same on this side over here as well. You could have one large bedroom. The choice is of course up to you. We're also using our universal inner on here. So this is where we have this zip that runs down the middle of the bedrooms. That's actually on both sides of this. So we'll now just show you how these work. So as I said before, there's lots and lots of space within this tent, and it's all accentuated thanks to those large windows that I highlighted earlier. If you do want more privacy or less light coming into the tent, then of course we can do this. You can see here that each window has its own curtain, which we just have toggled away at the moment. Now these actually are zippable curtains, so you can choose exactly how much light or privacy you're getting within the tent. Also then, just to highlight above the windows, this is the strip of mesh that I mentioned before as part of that external ventilation. So we have a few optional extras available for this tent, which would be a fleece carpet for the living area here, giving you a little bit more comfort underfoot. There is also a footprint available, which would go underneath the ground sheet here, and that's of course going to give you a little bit more protection and keep it clean and dry on those wet and muddy days. So there you have it then. That's all the features of the Phoenix 7 ATC from our Air TC collection. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget, this tent can be inflated using our Typhoon 12-volt compressor pump.